Give me a scissors. Because it's hard, dude. I'm ripping it. You see that? Now, would you like to take it off? Would you like to take it off? Let's go to the back, take it off.
Ever wondered what it's really like behind bars? The tales of prison life are enough to make anyone's skin crawl. You hear stories that sound straight out of a thriller, but the truth is even wilder, especially for the most brutal criminals like cannibals. After all, even in prison, no one would want to bunk with the dude who eats human flesh for dinner. Brace yourself as we uncover the shocking incident in which a cannibal prisoner did the unthinkable and introduce you to other realities of life in prison. American prisons. The U.S. has the highest incarceration rate in the world. Does this mean Americans are more prone to crime? Or is something else at play? The country spends over $182 billion a year to maintain this level of imprisonment. It affects about 1% of the adult population. Every hour, 7 new inmates enter the prison system, adding up quickly over time. Of these incarcerations, about 20% are for drug offenses. Violent crimes account for about 60%, and property crimes 14%. This means that these rates indicate substantial racial and ethnic gaps. Class and poverty are linked to imprisonment rates. They reflect social problems. Moreover, some businesses profit by running prisons. They have contracts to manage or supply these institutions. This has raised ethical questions. However, there are some offenses even other prisoners might find despicable. Among them is cannibalism. When fellow prisoners found out that one of their own had been imprisoned for eating human flesh, the perpetrator was viciously attacked by their cellmates as well as by the correctional officers. Thus, to ensure his safety, they had to lock him in a jail cell. He must stay there forever and alone. Roots of prison violence. Many think prison violence is unavoidable. However, it's not. Such violence often comes from overcrowding and a lack of staff. These issues are common. Prison life is harsh and unwelcoming. It can change inmates' behavior. Mistreatment leads to dehumanized behavior, similar to animals. Daily violence, whether seen or experienced, harms mental health. This often increases antisocial behavior. Prisons can foster violent environments. Inhumane conditions, like extreme temperatures and neglect, worsen the situation. A lack of proper nutrition adds to the problem. As temperatures rise, violence increases. This shows a link between the environment and inmate behavior. By fixing root causes like overcrowding and understaffing, we can reduce violent incidents. These causes also include poor conditions and a lack of mental health support. Improving these conditions ensures safety. It also creates a more caring, restorative atmosphere for inmates. This could lead to better outcomes for individuals and society. Prison gangs. Prison gangs are a harsh reality for many inmates. They are worse than a reflection of their street counterparts. In strict prisons, these groups are a lifeline for inmates. They seek protection, support, and a sense of belonging. But they also fuel a cycle of violence and fear. This breeds corruption and intimidation. Prison gangs, like their street counterparts, have a rigid hierarchy. They are very similar to each other. They have their own laws, customs, and symbols. They are often segregated by race and ethnicity. Consider the Aryan Brotherhood. It is a white supremacist, organized crime group. Then, there's the Mexican Mafia, the Black Guerrilla family, and the Latin Kings. Each has its own identity and place in the jail system. For many convicts, joining a gang is more than a decision. It's a survival tactic. Gangs provide security from other groups. They offer access to illegal goods and a sense of community in a hostile world. However, this union comes at a high cost. Violence and coercion are common. Leaving a gang is challenging due to fears of retaliation. Loyalty isn't simply required, it's enforced, often with brutal results. Institution gangs hold authority beyond the confines of the institution. Their influence extends into communities through ties with street gangs and organized crime. They engage in many illegal activities, such as drug trafficking, extortion, money laundering, and contract killings. Their vast network gives them influence inside and outside the jail. It blurs the line between inmate and outsider. Many convicts see joining a gang as a necessary evil. It's a way to survive in a dangerous world. However, this often traps them in a cycle of crime and violence. It makes their time in prison much more hazardous. Life in prison. Prison life is as dull as you might imagine. It's an endless series of procedures that crush any notion of independence. For many, the days blend into a monotonous haze. It breeds anger and anxiety. Prison life is both a blessing and a burden. It provides structure but also a violent, angry undercurrent. A typical day behind bars begins with the basics. It starts with brushing teeth, showering, and dressing. These dull chores follow a strict schedule. It applies to all, no matter their crime or sentence. Breakfast is served in a cell or a dining hall, depending on the facility and inmate classification. Many people include religious practices in their morning routines. Religion can bring hope in otherwise grim times. It's ironic that many find faith in prison. Yet, in such a harsh place, a little optimism can go a long way. Mealtimes are central to prison life, just as they are in the outside world. However, activities fill the gaps. They depend on one's sentence, the facility's nature, and the programs available. Some inmates may attend educational classes or work. Others may spend their days in idle detention. The daily routine is a cacophony of alarms, bells, and demands. It is a reminder of the tight schedule that rules every minute. For many convicts, the time between these tasks is a desert of boredom. Books, TV, and other entertainment can provide brief breaks from the monotony, but they are only that, brief. Periodic headcounts shatter any sense of normalcy. They remind us of the constant surveillance and that freedom is an elusive dream. Nicola Cocaine. Nicola Cocaine, the Hannibal of Rouen, is a famous example of what can happen to cannibals in prison. Cocaine was involved in a sad incident with his cellmate while serving a sentence in a French jail for previous charges in 2007. During a confrontation, Cocaine killed the other man and ate portions of his body. This terrible episode raised concerns about prison facilities and security. It was mainly a worry for inmates with serious mental health issues. Following this incident, Cocaine was moved to a psychiatric facility rather than a traditional prison. This judgment underscores the complexities of handling people like Cocaine, who may have underlying psychiatric issues that necessitate specialized treatment beyond what a typical prison can give. His story often comes up in talks on prison reform. People like him may be put in solitary or moved to high security or mental units to prevent further incidents. Cocaine's tale shows the need for thorough mental health tests in prisons. They must provide personalized treatments to keep inmates and staff safe. A game of cat and mouse. It is no surprise that drugs and weapons are banned. But many everyday items from the outside world are also forbidden. Mobile phones, for example, are an absolute no-no. For some, the idea of living without a phone is unthinkable, but in prison, it is a reality. Inmates often seek contraband to feel free or to break the law. There is a high demand for phones. They can organize smuggling operations and communicate with the outside world. Prisons conduct frequent searches and strict checks to find banned items. This is to prevent these activities. However, prisoners are notoriously creative. They've found clever ways to hide contraband. They range from hiding items in their clothes to using complex tactics to avoid detection. As security tech improves at detecting hidden items, so do inmates' strategies to bypass it. The conflict between prison officials and inmates is a never-ending game of cat and mouse. Each side constantly adapts to the other's moves. Medical care in prison. If you get sick in jail, you are entitled to medical care. It should be as good as that provided to the general population. Unlike outside, this care is free. It's a better deal than many citizens get, as healthcare can be costly. Prisons must provide complete healthcare. It must include illness prevention, health promotion, and medical treatment. Each convict receives a medical screening within 48 hours of entering the prison system. This initial inspection is critical. It documents any pre-existing ailments. They must be addressed during the inmate's stay. Chronic diseases, mental health issues, and infections need more treatment. Despite these rules, care quality varies significantly between facilities. Overcrowding, limited resources, and staffing shortages affect inmate attention. Medical complaints are sometimes ignored or undertreated, posing severe health risks. The principle guiding prison health care is clear. It is to meet every inmate's health needs. It must also prevent illness and promote well-being. The goal is to treat and prevent. This shows a commitment to the health and safety of those in prison. Education programs. Prison programs let inmates gain academic, job, and life skills. These initiatives aim to offer diverse educational options. They range from basic literacy to high school equivalency programs. Inmates can also get training in trades like carpentry and plumbing. They can also take college courses for diplomas or degrees. Research shows that education programs reduce reoffending after release. These programs help inmates build a better future. They teach new skills and knowledge. Educated convicts are less likely to return to their criminal roots. They are more likely to reintegrate into society as productive members. Also, prison education provides more than just skills. It builds purpose and self-worth. For many offenders, learning is a second chance. It can help them reinvent themselves and their future. These programs can help ex-offenders find jobs, but those with a criminal record may still struggle to get work. Despite these challenges, prison education programs are essential. They reduce recidivism and give hope for a better future. Rehabilitation programs. A common criticism of the prison system is its high recidivism rate. It suggests that jails often fail to deter or reform. This requires a change in how prisons work and their role in society. Should the goal be to lock them up? Or to rehabilitate them so they can re-enter society as productive citizens? Traditional jails have focused on punishment, not rehabilitation. But modern facilities know that good rehab programs can cut recidivism. This, in turn, improves public safety. These programs can help offenders. They can gain skills, address disorders, and grasp the consequences of their actions. This may reduce repeat offenses. Some jails are moving to a more rehab-focused approach. They are adding education, job training, and therapy to their daily routines. The federal prison system is starting to make similar changes. The goal is to create a more rehabilitative environment. The success of these measures is still unknown. But a shift to rehabilitation over punishment is a promising step. It may reduce crime and create a better society for those who have served their sentences. Work assignments. In the U.S., federal prisoners must work while incarcerated, except for the disabled. When inmates enter the prison system, they are evaluated. Then, they are assigned a job based on their skills and the institution's needs. Federal prison work assignments are in 3 categories: janitorial, skilled, and clerical. Inmates are paid for their labor, but it is minimal. There are different pay grades based on the job level. For example, Grade 1 roles pay 40 cents per hour, whereas Grade 2 jobs pay 29 cents per hour. Grade 3 jobs pay only 17 cents an hour. Grade 4, the lowest, pays just 12 cents. By any standard, these earnings are astonishingly low. Even the highest paid offenders earn only $10 to $20 each month. There are various pay scales for jobs in the commissary. Still, pay is low. With such small wages, convicts often can't afford basics from the commissary, like toiletries. They can't even afford to call home. This shows the financial difficulties that convicts face. They must work while inside. Rules and regulations. Every prison has strict rules. They are to keep it secure and running smoothly. Prison management and the law set the rules. They vary by facility type and location. A small or medium security prison will have very different rules than a supermax facility. ADX Florence in Colorado was opened in 1994 and is known as one of the most guarded prisons in the United States. This 37-acre facility may house up to 490 convicts. They are too dangerous or high profile for other institutions. ADX Florence's inmates confront severe living conditions. They are locked in their cells for 23 hours a day. They get 1 hour outside in a larger cell with a skylight. It prevents them from seeing their surroundings. The facility has stringent rules. For the first 3 years, prisoners cannot socialize. Contact with the outside world is also highly restricted. Offenders can earn extra privileges, like more time outside, by behaving well. They might also get a transfer to a less restrictive facility. The isolation and sensory deprivation at ADX Florence can harm mental health. The effects can be severe and lasting. Money system. The UK prison system has its own money handling rules. They are similar to those in the US. Inmates can access their prison accounts. These can be topped up with their earnings or contributions from family and friends. Each convict has their own account where money may be put. This money might come from jail work or outside sources, like relatives and friends. Jail jobs let convicts earn a little cash. They can spend it on cafeteria snacks. This can contain toiletries, food, stationery, and apparel. Family and friends can use specific methods to deposit funds into an inmate's account. These include online payment systems and postal orders. The money in these accounts pays for jail phone calls. It lets convicts contact their outside support networks. Having money for the jail canteen is vital. It helps inmates stay connected to the outside world and buy essential items. This technique helps to keep a sense of normalcy and control in prison life. Telephone privileges. In the US, prison phone access is strictly regulated. It varies by state and facility. Inmates can usually use phones found in their housing units or common areas. These phones use a prepaid or collect call system. So, convicts must buy calling cards or use collect services to make outbound calls. However, telephone conversations are frequently monitored and recorded in order to guarantee security and prevent unlawful activities. Conversations may be monitored for infractions of jail regulations, making privacy essentially non-existent. Phone calls are vital for family ties and support, but they are costly. These calls can be prohibitively expensive. They put a tremendous financial strain on convicts and their low-income families. Phone firms hired by correctional institutions typically charge high rates for their services. This causes extra financial strain. Solitary confinement. Solitary confinement, or isolation, means locking an offender in a small, often windowless cell for up to 22 hours a day. They have little to no human contact or stimulation. This type of confinement is used for discipline. It also handles offenders deemed dangerous, disruptive, or at risk of harming others in the prison. Solitary confinement conditions vary. However, offenders often suffer. They face intense isolation, limited access to personal possessions, and strict movement and interaction restrictions. A lack of social engagement, outdoor exercise, and meaningful activities can result in considerable psychological anguish, poor mental health, and physical well-being. According to research, prolonged solitary confinement can cause severe and long-term impacts such as anxiety, sadness, paranoia, and hallucinations. Deprivation of stimulation and social contact can worsen pre-existing mental health concerns or possibly lead to the development of new psychiatric disorders. Despite these well-documented consequences, solitary confinement remains a prevalent practice in many correctional facilities, with some viewing it as a necessary tactic to keep order. However, its use poses ethical concerns because it has a negative influence on human psychology and is similar to long-term torture. The practice of isolating offenders in this manner frequently contributes to a cycle of deteriorating mental health, emphasizing the need for more humane and rehabilitative measures in jail. Changi Prison. Changi Prison Complex, founded in 1936 by British colonial authorities, is one of Singapore's oldest and best-known correctional facilities. During World War II, it was used as a prisoner of war camp under Japanese rule, housing thousands of Allied soldiers, including British, Australian, and Dutch forces, who were held hostage under harsh conditions. These inmates were subjected to terrible overcrowding, poor food and medical treatment, forced work, and frequent physical and psychological torture by their captors. Following the war, Changi Prison continued to serve as a general prison for Singapore's criminal offenders. It has been expanded and renovated multiple times throughout the years to accommodate an increasing inmate population and improve security measures. Singapore's judicial system is notoriously tricky, with heavy penalties even for minor crimes, resulting in a strong need for prison space. Singapore's punitive attitude goes beyond incarceration. The country is infamous for using the capital penalty for 33 different felonies, including drug trafficking and firearm possession. This comprehensive list of capital offenses lessens the need for long-term imprisonment in comparison to other countries, where many offenders face the death sentence. Mothers in prison. Pregnant women in jail confront unique hurdles when it comes to prenatal treatment, labor, and postpartum assistance. Most prisons do not provide proper healthcare services for pregnant convicts, posing considerable hazards to both mother and baby. The experience of giving birth in prison is typically unpleasant, and the difficulties do not end there. Some mothers may be permitted to keep their newborns with them for a short period of time following birth, depending on the facility's policies and the mother's eligibility. However, in many circumstances, infants are separated from their mothers shortly after delivery and put with family members, foster parents, or child welfare organizations. This separation can have serious emotional, developmental, and long-term effects on both the mother and the kid. According to research, maternal separation during infancy can damage attachment ties, impede cognitive and emotional development, and raise the likelihood of later life behavioral and mental health disorders. A child's growth and well-being can suffer long-term if they do not have consistent, caring contact with their mothers. The current system does not provide beneficial results for moms and their children, creating a cycle of despair and misery. To stop this cycle, there must be a significant rethinking of how pregnant convicts and their babies are treated, with an emphasis on providing more substantial care and keeping families together whenever feasible. Improving these conditions would benefit both the individuals concerned and society as a whole. Visitation policies. In much of the Western world, inmates are allowed visits, albeit an inmate's privilege may be temporarily revoked for misconduct. Typically, visitation is only suspended for a brief time. The nature of prison visits varies according to the facility and its laws and regulations. One typical option is an in-person visit, in which prisoners meet visitors in a designated section of the prison complex. These areas typically include tables and chairs, allowing visitors to sit in the same room as the inmate. Due to space constraints, visitors are usually limited to 5 at a time. Then, there are in-person, no-contact appointments. These are frequently used for inmates who are segregated or have just been admitted. During these visits, a glass divider separates the prisoner and the visitors. The inmate is led into the visiting area in handcuffs, which are removed only once they have been seated. Some jails also allow family visits, which might be held in a private apartment-style facility within the compound. These visits can last a few days, but are often limited to immediate family members. These prolonged visits are designed to create a more intimate atmosphere, allowing offenders to strengthen ties with their families, which can be critical for their mental well-being and rehabilitation. Children in adult prisons. The fact that up to 50,000 youngsters are detained in the United States on any given day is a disturbing truth. 1 in every 6 of these children, those under the age of 18, is imprisoned or detained as an adult. When juveniles are convicted and sentenced as adults, they are frequently placed in adult correctional facilities, where they suffer the same harsh circumstances and regulations as adult offenders. This practice, also known as trying juveniles as adults or juvenile transfer, poses substantial ethical, legal, and developmental concerns, highlighting a significant failure of justice in one of the world's wealthiest countries. Children in adult jails face tremendous risks to their physical and mental health, and they are denied age-appropriate treatment and opportunities that could help them rehabilitate. As a result, their opportunities for reform are minimal, frequently resulting in lives that are virtually damaged before they really begin. Despite suggestions that young offenders should be held accountable, abundant scientific research indicates that the teenage brain differs significantly from the adult brain. Teenagers do not fully develop adult-like reasoning skills until approximately the age of 25. However, the justice system frequently appears to prioritize punishment over rehabilitation, continuing a harmful cycle that fails to address the underlying issues and the possibility of positive change in young lives. Holiday season. Christmas is the most widely recognized holiday in American correctional facilities, as offenders come from diverse backgrounds and hold a variety of religions and beliefs. The level of its celebration, however, varies significantly according to the facility's laws and procedures. Some jails may decorate for the holiday and serve a special themed meal, while charitable organizations such as the Salvation Army frequently donate items for convicts to mail to their children. In some situations, inmates are permitted to design and send greeting cards within the institution. Other religions and faiths are occasionally accommodated. However, this is often based on special requests. For example, special meals may be prepared upon request, and prison chaplains may perform religious rites. Nonetheless, the overall atmosphere in prisons around the holidays can be dismal. For many inmates, this period exacerbated feelings of loneliness and isolation, making the separation from family and loved ones all the more difficult.